financial product called lease is a contractual arrangement calling for the user to pay the owner for the use of an asset. Property, buildings, and vehicles are common assets that are leased other than industrial or business equipment that has been practiced since a long time ago. The rapid growth in leasing is very promising. While the recession pushed many to rent out of necessity, the economic expansion which followed, coupled with changing attitude towards individuals and firms, led to the rise of the renter by choice. Rentership rates expanded across the board. We are calling two Islamic finance students to give insight of difference between conventional leasing and ijarah.
In Western business and legal context, leasing is actually a financial arrangement where one party that owns the asset we call lessor and allows another party to use the asset that we call lessee for a specific period in exchange for regular payments. So leasing is a common method for businesses and individuals to acquire the use of asset without having to purchase them outright. There are different types of lease and the term can be vary based on the nature of the assets and the agreement between the lessor and lessee. So the first one is operating lease. It is a short-term lease in which the lessee uses the asset for a specific period without assuming the risks and rewards of ownership. At the end of the lease term, the lessee typically has the option whether to return the asset or renew the lease. Meanwhile, the finance lease is a long-term lease that effectively transfers the risks and rewards of ownership to the lessee. It is often used for financing the acquisition of major assets such as home, car, and aircraft, and the lessee may have the option to purchase the asset at a predetermined price at the end of the lease term.
In Islamic finance, an Islamic lease is referred to as ijarah in terms of Islamic fiqh. Ijarah and ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik, ijarah contracts which one is Islamic lease are legitimate. It means compensation, consideration, and return. Technically, it refers to a contract to hire or rent an asset or commodity in order to benefit from its usufruct, while al-ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik refers to a finance lease that includes a promise by the lessor to transfer the ownership in the lease asset to the lessee, either at the end of the duration of the ijarah period or by stage during the duration of the contract. Overall, this paper aims to examine the current Islamic finance system and compare conventional lease to Islamic lease or ijarah, while also addressing difficulties that still exist in conventional.
So the characteristic of conventional finance lease, the first one, the lessor retains legal ownership of the asset throughout the lease term unless the lessee chooses to purchase the asset at the end. Meanwhile, the lease payment received by the lessor are classified as lease revenue. They typically include both interest income and principal repayment components. And the lessee recognizes the right of the used asset on their balance sheet as it represents an economic asset they control. And they apply the accounting and legal framework in the substance over form concept to ensure the transaction reflects its economic reality. The first characteristic of depreciation of lease asset, conventional finance lease, the lease depreciates the right of use asset over its useful life according to the relevant accounting standards. And maintenance, the lessee is responsible for the maintenance and repair costs of the lease asset during the lease term. And lastly, the financing rate reflects the interest charged by the lessor for providing the loan to finance the assets. So it's typically calculated upfront and embedded in the lease payments.
Okay, now I will explain about the comparison of ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik and conventional finance lease. But firstly, the characteristic in terms of lease asset for the ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik, it involves the usufruct of an asset that is legal under Sharia. Okay, for the lease revenue, the revenue from ijarah is not divided, and then the interest income is not involved in the ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik. Ijarah assets are recorded in the lessor's book for the recognition of this asset, and it is not applicable to substance over form concept. And in terms of depreciation of this asset, ijarah muntahiyah bitamlik, the lessor documents the depreciation of the ijarah asset, and it is originated by a lessor for the maintenance cost and also the financing rates. The market rental rate is reflected in the ijarah rate.
There are two contemporary issues in the conventional finance list. The first one is total higher cost, and the second one is ownership transfer delay. So in total higher cost, it is because the interest expense and amortization expense. Even though the lessee does not gain the ownership until the end of the lease, they do gain the right of to use the asset. Therefore, the right of use asset is depreciated over its useful life, resulting in amortization expense. This means that the lease asset cost is gradually spread out over the lease term through the amortization expense. And the third one, it is because of fixed rate in the finance lease. Fixed rate in the lease asset depreciated faster than the lease payment are calculated for, so the lessee may end up paying more for the asset than it is actually worth. This is especially risky for long-term lease or lease on asset with rapid rate of depreciation such as car. And the fixed payment primarily target interest in the initial years, which means the principal amount reduces slowly, causing the extended repayment period in finance lease. The second issue is ownership transfer delay. It is optional and based on a separate purchase agreement at the end of the lease term. The lessee has the right to choose whether to purchase or return the assets. However, the risk for the lessee will occur in the conventional finance lease because the lessee bears most of the risks and rewards associated with the asset during the lease term. They are responsible for maintenance, insurance, and potential losses in value. Therefore, even though the conventional lease offers tax advantages in jurisdiction and allows flexibility in ownership decision at the end, it can be expensive and not really give advantage to the lessee due to the interest charges and not the really smooth transaction of ownership of the asset.
Alright, so the analysis of ijara system related to the conventional leasing issue, I will give an example in terms of profit and loss sharing. Okay, the lessor or owner is in charge of overseeing and maintaining the asset in ijara. The lessee is relieved of extra costs like maintenance and insurance because the lessor is the one who pays for the ownership. By doing this, it may be possible to reduce unforeseen expenses that raise the overall cost of conventional leasing. Ijara transactions follow Islamic financial norms, as we know about that, right? So, which forbid the payment or receive of interest, which is riba. So, fixed rental payments, which will provide the lessor with a return on his investment. Next, for the second issue, which is ownership transfer delay, there will be no automated transfer of ownership. Okay, ijara does not entail an automated transfer of ownership, in contrast to conventional leasing, which may include an option or obligation to buy the asset at the conclusion of the lease term. For the duration of the lease, the lessor is the legal owner. Okay, according to Dr. Hanuddin Amin, the al-ijara, which is muntahiyah bitamlik, financing is still in its infancy stage compared with other Islamic financing products due to the error regarding asset ownership. Despite this hitch, this financing facility is quite distinct. It provides more financial manners and mortgage flexibility when customers patronize Islamic banks for Islamic financing facilities. So with various measures, this facility can help Islamic banks to stay competitive and responsive to the demand of communities they serve.
In essence, the conventional lease differs from the Islamic lease, which is ijara, in terms of standard definitions, underlying concepts, lease asset and accounting methods. Although operating ijara is similar to conventional operating lease in terms of accounting treatments, there are differences in the underlying principles, ijara asset and contract terms. To sum up, the purpose of evaluating the present Islamic financing system in this paper was also met, since it was determined that the ijara system is superior to conventional leasing and less burdensome because it adheres to Sharia principles and laws. The ownership transfer in an ijara muntahiyah bitamlik is often smoother than in a conventional hire purchase because it is supposed to be Sharia compliant and transparent.